guys, it's Kay. So today I wanted to do a video for beginners or for people that are just interested in 3D printing. In my daily life I get a lot of questions and misconceptions and that kind of a thing about how 3D printers actually work. I even had somebody think that 3D printers are like telepathic robots that know what you're thinking and know what you want and then print that. And that's definitely not how they work. So I wanted to put this together just for anyone unfamiliar with the concept, just so they can see how you go from a 3D file all the way to a printed product. Of course, this is something that has to go through a computer, so I will share my screen for that and explain the process. But towards the end, I'll also have a time lapse so you guys can see the actual printing process as well.
Alrighty guys, so everything starts with the 3D file. It does have to be like an actual 3D file, not just an image of a 3D file. I always go to Thingiverse because I'm not very good at 3D design or CAD, so people will post their free models up here that they wanted to share. So going through, you might have some instructions, you might see some variations with the different models, but once you select the one that you want to print, you go ahead and download that file. It's normally a .stl. So once you have that, then you're going to go into your slicing program. I currently use KISS Slicer, but there are a lot of different options available. So from here you can look at the file. You can also scale it up or down. So if I wanted to make it smaller, I could go ahead and do that. And if I wanted to make it bigger, I could go ahead and do that as well. The only thing to keep in mind is this is not actually altering the 3D file itself, it's just scaling it up or down. If I wanted to add 2 or 3 or however many I could fit on my printing bed, I could do that as well. And then, next there's a bunch of different settings to, allow you to adjust how to print. So first I can tell it if I want it to print fast or slower based on how much detail I want or, the type of print. I can also adjust something called infill. So you see here that right now this looks like a column. It's a solid object. If I wanted it to print solid, I could add infill. Essentially, infill is allowing it to print like a honeycomb or some sort of a shape or a pattern on the inside to save time and plastic. If I wanted it to be completely solid, I would want to adjust it to 100%. And I could also alter, the kind of pattern that it, does the infill in, depending on if I had different needs. But for this, I want to print a vase. So in vase mode, it's not going to print the inside. It's going to print the bottom layer and then the sides. And that's really it. So vase mode is pretty cool. That's what I'm going to be printing in today. So the next thing that I'll look at is supports. So if I needed to print supports for a print, if I was printing a bridge or something that had a long overhang, printers can't print out of thin air, generally, at least not mine. So I could add supports for that. If I wanted to print a raft, which is essentially a grid on the bottom to help it stick, I could do that. I am going to be using a skirt, which is essentially just something that goes around the edge to help prime the print. So anything that actually helps the printer make the print is in that section there. There's a few other settings that I don't actually need to adjust. You kind of just set that up once. Here's a sampling of G-code, and that is what the slicing program puts everything into. It's what the printer understands. So essentially it's taking this whole file and turning it into G-code. Here I can adjust the material settings. So different materials, different types of plastics have to be printed at different temperatures. Everything's in Celsius there. So currently I'm printing in 192 with the first layer of 205. Your first layer also has to be generally pretty warm just to help it stick for the first couple of layers. And then I have my bed set to 60 Celsius. And that's just because I have a heated bed. It again helps. So once you're done everything, you'll go up to the top there and you'll hit slice. And essentially what it's doing right now is it's breaking everything down layer by layer, figuring out what exact movements the printer needs to make, and converting all of that into G-code. Depending on what slicer you use, as I mentioned, there's a lot of different options available. It can take longer or shorter, and of course it'll definitely take longer if you have a lot of different objects or if your object is big and full of details. Normally it doesn't take this long for me, but my computer is old and I'm also recording at this time, so it is taking a little bit longer. KISS Slicer isn't the newest or latest and greatest, but I use it with my Castle XL exclusively just because I've had issues with Cura and other slicers getting that to work, so I know that KISS Slicer works for my Castle, and I just stick with what I know. So it's almost done here. Should be done here soon. And once it does finish, there's something that I always recommend you kind of at least take a glance at before you start a print, especially if you're new. It always kind of helps. It's essentially just looking at the different pathways and every move that the printer is going to make. There, it's finished. So I'll show you what I mean here. I'll go up and click path right there, and now you'll see that little purple line. That is the skirt, so that's the first thing it's going to print. And then that big blue circle is the bed, or not the bed, I'm sorry, the base. Then what I can do is I can go up each individual layer. It kind of looks like a CAT scan, but I think it's pretty cool. And so now you'll see that it's not solid anymore because it's in vase mode, so it's only printing that perimeter, that edge. If there was infill or supports, you'd see them here too, every move the printer is going to make. So I always find it helpful to kind of go up and down through the layers, especially if I'm adjusting settings that I'm unfamiliar with, or if I'm using supports, if I just want to make sure that the supports are going through correctly, because that's definitely definitely important to do. It helps to kind of diagnose issues before you start the print, before you get halfway through a print and find out that you wasted a lot of plastic on a simple slicer setting. So once you're done, you'll go ahead and save it. Of course, I already did that. And I'm going to come into Pronterface because I'm printing off of USB. You can also print with SD card or if you have a print server. But for my Castle XL, I print off of USB using Pronterface. Pronterface is also pretty cool because it allows you to do a lot of troubleshooting. You can move the printer, you can adjust the temperature, look at the live temperature readout. If I wanted to manually heat the bed or the extruder, I can do that. If I wanted to manually use the extruder, I could do that. I can also see a log of everything that's going on, and if I wanted to type in G-code, just like that, I can do that as well manually. So I already have the file loaded just for the sake of time. It doesn't load the entire file just because that's how Pronterface does it. It gives me some information there about how long the print will take. It isn't always correct, but that's its estimation. And it'll tell me the coordinates of how much space the print will take, or what between what movements rather the printer will make during the print. So when I'm all ready, I'll hit print. It'll tell me the time that the print started, the time that the print finished. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys look at what that print process looked like.
Alrighty guys, so that's the printing process for you. This was the final print. You might notice that it's a lot shorter and kind of incomplete compared to the actual file. And that's because I wanted to use this to hold pencils, and the actual file is too tall. So I know you're thinking, oh, you could scale it down. Well, if I did that, then it would be too thin because it is to scale. So the nice thing about vase mode is since it prints hollow, you can stop the print pretty much at any time if you want to cut it off. And since I'm okay with the edge being like this, that's what I decided to do. So I'm pretty happy with the overall quality. The Castle never fails in that aspect. So I thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions about 3D printing or how it works or anything like that, feel free to put it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. So that about wraps it up, but I'll see you guys next time.